So very recently, as of recording, Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls was announced, and a lot of the internets, being as reasonable as they are, lost their minds at a new Marvel fighting game, Marvel vs. Nobody. And just like with the hypothetical Marvel vs. Capcom 2 Dream Roster, when the Marvel vs. Capcom collection was like right around the corner, I'm going to do a Dream Roster / wish list for Marvel Tokon. Now, an interesting thing about Tokon is that it is a 4v4 fighting game. Now, it's not to say that like you can switch between like all four characters and it operates the same as like an MVC3. No, it's more that like you can either be one character with 3 different assists, which is crazy, or you can play as 4 characters but they all share 1 life bar, which is very interesting. The latter kind of reminds me a little bit of Tekken Tag Tournament 1 and 2, where despite the fact that it's a 2v2 game and you can switch out, if any one of your characters dies, then that's the round. So let's get started with the wish list / dream roster. I am going with 40 picks rather than like any larger number, not just because it's a 4v4 and I would like a number that is like divisible by 4 to be the big number, but unlike Guilty Gear Strive and more like Dragon Ball FighterZ, it seems like they're sacrificing the really super intricate animation in favor of just a lot of stuff happening on screen. That's not to say that like it'll look worse than Strive. I mean, technically, yes, it will, but it'll look as good as Dragon Ball FighterZ, which, let's be for real, Dragon Ball FighterZ, gorgeous fighting game. A lot of fun camera movements. But anyway, these characters are in no particular order other than this is when I thought of them. The first one to the last one. And I also try to not over-represent one franchise or group collective of types of characters more than others. I sort of failed a little bit, just a tiny bit, but when they're all put together like this, you won't really notice. Starting with Dazzler. I am a Dazzler truther. I feel like if any game's gonna do her justice, it would be either Marvel Rivals or Marvel Tokon. And just like in the MVC4 video, I feel like she could have a retaliatory / on the ground about to be knocked out super, where she just does like a big fuck you laser that does a big amount of damage before she gets knocked out. Rogue, pretty simple. Just grab her from Marvel, do some tweaks to make her more Arxis. It's pretty good. She doesn't even really need to like do any copy ability type thing. Although you could do something like that, it would definitely help with separating it from Strive and being more like Dragon Ball. In fact, you could do something kind of like Captain Ginyu's thing. Although instead of just switching bodies, it's just borrowing a special attack. Magneto, it's kind of obvious. Just have Magneto in there somewhere. I don't even know where. I don't even know how you would do it or even make him different from Marvel vs. Capcom Magneto. Just do it. Just put him in. Howard the Duck. Just like Dazzler, I am a Howard the Duck truther. Just give him a gun, just make him like real weird and small and hard to deal with. Just, you can do something with it. America Chavez, you can do something silly with the portals that she can do. I feel like portals in a fighting game are hard to do, but if any company is gonna figure out how to make them work, it might be Arc System Works, who knows. Scarlet Witch, you can do something like Doctor Strange. Just give her like one color of spell, but like, just make them very different flavors of like chaos magic or what have you. Cable, Gunboy, real easy to figure out with Gunboy. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. I'm not saying make it a Carl Clover, Aurelius Clover, or a Bedman or something like that. But I am thinking, some kind of puppet character. You could totally make a puppet character with Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Wolverine and Cyclops. You can't have one without the other, if I can be for real. And the fact that Marvel 3 had one without the other for so long is kind of it's a crime, but whatever. You gotta have them both in. You know, you can do the Berserker Barrage, you can do your Optic Blast. Just, you know, I can imagine them being creative in some sort of way where it's not the same as Marvel 2 and 3. Daredevil. Daredevil is one of a few characters in this list even that I'm surprised that hasn't been in some sort of fighting game somewhere. It feels like there's a lot to work with. He has like different weapons that like all form from each other. You know, he's got like the nunchucks, he's got the billy clubs, he's got just a big bow staff. You can do stuff with it. You can make him real acrobatic. Hulk, however, with the caveat that if you can't go with like a smart Hulk, but specifically kind of like the one that was like in Marvel vs. Capcom 1 with like the cool voice, make him Amadeus Cho. I mean, they already got Robbie Reyes as Ghost Rider in here, so why not do another second generation of this character type of character? Penny Parker, but with a more comic accurate type of spider design. Like, the thing about Spider in a lot of the media that has Penny Parker in it that isn't a comic book is that Spider is designed to look very Eva-like, you know, because it's like inspired by Evangelion. So other pieces of media kind of move away from that, give Spider a little bit more of like a unique robo design. Even Marvel Rivals, which is more of a super robot, still isn't very Eva-like. I'm thinking for Penny in this game, they can make hers more Eva. Bishop. Marvel vs. Capcom 3's fan mods, fan characters, kind of figure out how to do Bishop by kitboshing a bunch of stuff. He looks and feels really good to play as. But there are things you can do with Bishop that are different from that fan character that would be fun to play as. Dr. Octopus, the legendary cut character from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I think it's finally time to give him his time in the sun. Even the fan mods for 3 aren't coming up with something for Dr. Octopus, and I feel like that's a travesty. The man needs his time in the sun. He needs his glory days. Moon Knight. Random bullshit zoner? Sure, maybe. It'd be really annoying, but it'd be funny. Luke Cage, yet another character that I'm surprised hasn't been in some sort of fighting game before. Kind of like Daredevil. It's pretty funny that, like, they were in the team. They were in the Defenders. Doctor Strange. Now, I had this idea for Doctor Strange where it's sort of similar to the Marvel vs. Capcom one, where you can just like do a bunch of different magic bullshit. However, and this is gonna require some amount of like work to put in that I don't know if Arc System Works has already done. For Doctor Strange, I feel like you can give him specific moves that are assist exclusive, kind of like with Phoenix Wright doing the missile attack where the dog runs in. I feel like you can give Doctor Strange like maybe 2 or 3 assist unique special moves, but you know, who knows. Nightcrawler has so much potential as a fun fighting game character. He can triple wield, kind of like Zoro from One Piece, except it's a sword in his tail instead of in his mouth. Plus, teleporting, always fun. Magic. A friend once told me that Magic is basically Arc System Works catnip. She's a cute girl, she's snarky and funny, she's canonically pretty powerful, she's got a sword, and she has a demon form. Those are all like pretty big Arc System Works hallmarks, and they're all in one character. So I kind of agree with him that like if they're not putting Magic in the game, they're kind of just like leaving their lunch out for anyone to eat. Next is Groot, but with like a little bit of Rocket Raccoon. Now, that's not to say that like, you know, like Groot is there and he has like Rocket Raccoon moves. I mean that like Groot is like the main star of this roster pick, and Rocket's there in like a super or 2 or 3. You know, he's there to like assist with the supers, but he doesn't really have a huge role to play in the Groot's like character slot. Yondu / Kraglin with Cosmos specific assist, kind of like Missile with Phoenix Wright. It'd be really funny if like Yondu or Kraglin is like has an assist going, and it's just a space dog floating in and like, you know, spinning at them or biting them or whatever. I think it'd be funny. The idea of making the Yaka arrow happen in a fighting game is a little weird, but I think Arc System Works could do something. Maybe. Bailey Hoskins. Now, some people might not know who this boy is. He is an X-Man, and his story is all about how he has the mutant ability to blow up. And I mean, like, he explodes and then dies, and that's it. That is his ability. He could just do it, and boom, he's done. He's dead forever. I think if you were to have him as like an actual playable character, you need to give him like tools and things that he can work with, so that way he can like not immediately explode. But you can have his like level 3 super, like you do or die thing, that he explodes. Kind of like a weird sacrificial version of the Chiatsu super from the Fighters. Next is Punisher. I think it would be interesting to have Punisher and Cable in the same game, but like doing different types of like gun stuff, whereas Cable's able to like get in there but also shoot gun. Punisher is more about shoot gun and maybe has like some not specifically gun kata, but like, you know, just smacking people around with his guns. I think it would be pretty epic. Namor, or Namor if you're going with the MCU version. You know, water type stuff, bring in denizens of the deep to do sick combos. There's some stuff. You can make him fly. He flies. I don't quite remember what his weapon is, but there are things you can do. Next, the Fantastic Four. They all take individual character slots. The Thing, Mr. Fantastic, Johnny, and Sue Storms. I tried to rationalize having maybe one of them in the game, or maybe like have them in like pairs where it's like Mr. Fantastic and Sue, or The Thing and Johnny. But no, they like in a 4v4 you need to have each of them taking up a slot, so that way you can have all 4 of them together. If you have seen the Fantastic Four do their thing, you can kind of have a good idea as to what they're capable of in a fighting game. Sue Storm has been getting like a lot of love recently because of her appearance in Marvel Rivals, and people are realizing, wow, she can fuck shit up. And yeah, she could. Next is Jubilee. You know, very cute girl who has like little explodey sparkles. Very cool. I feel like there's a lot you can do, especially considering in one run of the X-Men, she's a vampire also. I don't know what you would do with that, but that is a fact. War Machine, you know, just like there's Iron Man there, why not put in War Machine too? I don't need to explain anything to you. Ironheart. I do need to explain this. I feel like, based on the trailer that we were shown, Iron Man is a lot more up close and personal in terms of like how Iron Man is usually in fighting games, whereas normally in Marvel vs. Capcom he's more of a zoner. I feel like if you were to put Ironheart in there, she could be more of a zoner than getting real up close and personal. It'd be annoying, but it would be interesting. Blade, definitely the biggest example of why isn't this guy in a fighting game before. There's so much that you can pull from. He's got so many different like methods to fight and kill people with. You could totally find someone who can do a pretty good Wesley Snipes impression to be some motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill. Vision. I feel like Vision has the capability to be very busted. Him and some other character that we're gonna get to soon. But one thing about Vision that needs to be emphasized way more than like other flying characters is that like Vision needs to like animate very little, but like also deliberately. Now, that's not to say that like, you know, just have him slide around like a PNG on Photoshop. I mean like when he animates, make it so that he looks like he's putting in as little effort as possible. Like, not lazy, but like it's almost a trifle to him fighting, because Vision is crazy strong. And then when you give him animations where he's actually putting in efforts, that those are the big things, the ones that like the moves that like actually hurt. Deadpool. I mean, like, look, listen. We know Deadpool. We understand why. Sentry, just like Vision, I feel could be real busted, especially if they put in Sentry. They give him like an install super to make him the Void. I don't know exactly how that plays into the lore of Sentry. I actually don't know much about him. I just know that he is a cool guy. But there's stuff you can do. Professor Xavier. Now, you might be thinking, you want to put a guy in a wheelchair in a fighting game? And I say to you, no. Not a guy in a wheelchair, no. Make him the House of X version of Xavier, where he's just floating with the helmet on him. Make him like a force to be reckoned with, like a real force of nature, as he's just like floating about and moving things without even moving his body. Make him look really cool. Nebula. I feel like Nebula has so much untapped potential that like only the MCU movies were able to like touch the very tip of the iceberg of. In an Arc System fighting game, you could totally expand on like her capabilities as like some weird space cyborg. Hawkeye. Now, zoners that are specifically bow and arrow related, they don't have like a great track record in fighting games, but Hawkeye is pretty neat. And he knows quite a bit of hand-to-hand martial arts. So, and finally, Kraven the Hunter. Now, out of all Spider-Man's bad guys, why not like the Green Goblin or the Vulture or even Electro or even Shocker? And that's because Kraven the Hunter is probably Spider-Man's version of peak performance, and I really think that's interesting. I think that Kraven the Hunter being this horrible, terrible bastard of a person who was also like the peak physical form of a man is very interesting. And I think you can do stuff with Kraven, especially if you give him like a version of Strider's like robot animal helpers as like different special attacks, or maybe like his own flesh and blood animal type of Legion super. I don't know. You can do a lot with Kraven. You can do a lot with all of these characters. These are very like out of left field. Some of these I have no clue if they would even think about it. Bailey Hoskins is probably never going to be in one of these games, but I think there is stuff you could do with these characters, and Arc System Works, I trust them to do stuff with these characters. Thanks for watching. Bye.